Have you ever sat across from a deck that makes you want to remind your opponent why these hands are rated E for everybody? I've got a deck for you then. What's going on? I'm the King of TopDecks, and today we're going to be breaking down OP-11 Red-Black Koby. And while he may not be the King of Pirates, he's definitely the King of Combat in this format. So, if you enjoy competitive One Piece content, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Before we get into this, I do want to give a couple of shout-outs. Firstly, I do want to shout out one of our subscribers. His name is Fats Leech for the 3D printed ghost that's over here. He also provided me with this little mini one as well, the mascot of the channel. I thought these things turned out great, looks fantastic. Honestly, it was really cool and it was awesome of him to do that. So big shout out to you, homie. I really appreciate that. Additionally, I also wanted to shout out a local proxy maker here in Buffalo, New York, who goes by the name of The Mail. He actually made a couple of really cool proxies for me, and I will be getting to some of these deck lists in the future, but these are a couple of the ones that he got me, or that I've gotten from him, which was this really awesome Nami, this awesome Red Black Sabo, the Koala, of course. I had to get the manga version of my favorite deck. I also had to get the manga version of one of my second favorite decks, which is Yamato, the Purple-Black Monkey D. Luffy, and then the Blue-Red Nefeltari EV. He's able to do a lot of cool things with his proxies, and I'll be linking his Etsy store down below in the description. So if you do want to get some stuff from him, he does mail them as well, so please, by all means, check him out. I'm sure that he would also really appreciate that support. But without further ado, and all the shoutouts out of the way, let's get into it. So let's start with the core of the deck itself, the leader. Because once you understand how Koby controls combat, the rest of the list just really starts to fall into place. So what Koby does is he says your sword type characters can attack characters on the turn which they are played. And then once per turn, if your navy type characters with 7,000 base power or less will be removed from the field by your opponent's effect, you can place 3 cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck in any order instead. So I am going to kind of go through this deck list a little bit quickly without breaking things down as much as I normally do, because I am going to be providing some games here at the end of this, at the end of everything, and that'll do some commentary over it all to kind of help you understand how this deck wants to go. So Koby's main thing is the fact that he's able to give his characters essentially character rush. So that's going to be very important for us to really be able to control the board and keep the game state how we want it, to control the flow of combat how we want it to be. So, in order to start things off here for us, as with any other deck in One Piece, you always got to start off with your searchers. In our case, we have 4 copies of our 1-cost Kujiaku. On play, it says to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal 1 Navy type card, other than Kujiaku, which is very important, and then you can place the rest of the bottom of the deck in any order. And then activate main, you can trash this character, give one of your characters plus 1,000 during the turn. It's a very versatile searcher. You can see we have a lot of Navy cards in this deck that we're going to be pulling out with it, and that trash effect will actually be very impactful in the mid to late game. Up next, we've got 3 copies of Ripper, a 1k blocker if you have a black Navy type character other than him on the field. That's a very important distinction to make, and I'll tell you which characters we could potentially put him next to. But other than that, he's a really good chump blocker. You can slam him down for 1 Dawn on top of making your other plays. He's really, really good, and I've been enjoying him at 3. You can potentially bump him up to 4 if you really want to. Up next, we have the newest addition to Koby's deck that came out from EB03, and this is what I saw when I first started opening packs and realized, oh my god, this is such an incredibly strong card. I need to play this deck, and I'm so glad I did, because I'm really loving this deck. This card is none other than the 3-cost Hibari. It is a 5k power with no counter, and it says on play and when attacking, one of your sword type leader or character cards can also attack characters or active characters the turn they are played. Activate main, you can give one of your opponent's characters minus 1k during the turn. So this is really powerful. This is really incredible. You can play this down on the same turn if you have your opponent has a rested character, for example. You can play her down on play, give herself the ability to attack an active, swing for 5, give her, or you can use her effect first, give something -1, swing for 5, on attack, give your leader the ability to attack an active. So that way, if they do decide to block to counter out of this, your leader just goes straight into it as well. Or if you kill it, you get to swing at something else and potentially pressure out a little bit more of your opponent's hand or board. So This is such an incredibly good card. It is by far one of the strongest additions to this deck, and it is so good. So you want to be playing that as a 4 of. Up next, we're going to start getting into some of our 4 costs. So we've got 4 copies of PRBO2 Koby. He is a 4 cost 5k power with 1k counter. On your opponent's turn, since we have the Navy type for our leader, he will get plus 1000 power. And then when attacking, you KO one of your opponent's characters with 3k base power or less. Then, if you have 6 or less cards in your hand, you can draw a card. So this is going to be our main source of card draw in the deck, while also providing consistent pressure every single turn, while also staying relatively healthy, with all things considered. Being a 6k power body on your opponent's turn is going to be really helpful, but you're going to realize it's actually be a little bit bigger than that with the next card that we're going to talk about here, which is going to be our 4 copies of the new EB03 Kujiaku. This is a 4 cost 6k power that says on opponent's turn, all of your sword type characters with a cost of 6 or less gain plus 2000 power. And then on play, you trash a Navy type card from your hand, draw 2 cards. So you're going to notice in this deck that there is a pretty decent amount of bricks, but Kujiaku kind of helps us filter out that hand, because if we happen to be sitting on a couple of copies of Kujiaku, you can play her down, pitch one of those copies, draw 2 cards, and you can kind of continue to swivel through your hand that way. She's very, very good. She's one of our main defensive bodies. If we feel like we're going to be starting to take some aggro back, you want to slam her down early as much as possible, get that extra plus 2k on all your characters, and it makes it so difficult to deal with your board that people are just going to swing at your face, and you're just going to be dealing with their board, so they're not going to have much to swing at you. Up next, one of, in my opinion, the most influential cards in this deck, which I think you'd be very surprised. This has been an MVP for me. It is 4 cost Doll. Doll is a 1k power for 1k counter with blocker that says on play, you can trash 1 card from your hand. Then if your leader has a Navy type, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 6,000 power during this turn. Yeah, you heard me right. Minus 6,000 just for pitching a card on a 4 cost body with blocker. This card is just insane how strong this is. The amount of removal that you're able to do with this on play is so incredible. If you've already got an established board of characters, you play her down, not only are you feeling safe for the next turn, you're pitching a card, giving something minus 6k power, and with a couple of other cards in this deck, you're going to realize that it's actually really easy to get rid of big things like the 10 cost Newgate that Ace is going to play, or even the Mihawk Secret Rare. There's so many threats that Doll will help you just completely eliminate with just her on-play effect alone. This thing is incredibly good. You're going to want this as a mandatory 4 of. Up next, I've got 2 copies of our 5 cost X-Drake. This is a pretty new addition from OP-14. It's 5 cost 7k power. It says once on opponent's turn, once per turn, if your supernova type character would be removed from the field by your opponent's effect, you can give your leader minus 2k power during this turn instead. And Dawn ×1 when attacking, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2k during this turn. Now you might be a little bit surprised by this addition, because I think if you've seen some of your locals, or if you know anyone who plays Red Law, a lot of people are playing this in it because of the fact that it is a supernova. But what's also important is that it is also a Navy type character. So we can't actually search for this. We can also pitch this off of Kujiaku to potentially draw some cards if we don't need them. He does have a couple of synergies in the deck, and it is still pretty good. The only downside is that he can't attack the turn that he comes down. But when he does able to attack, he's going to give something minus 2k power, and with Doll, you can give something minus 8k power in one single turn. So almost any threat that you are standing across from, you're going to deal with it so easily. And the best part about it too is that you wouldn't be able to give him the ability to attack an active with Hibari. But what you can do is, if you have Hibari and then X-Drake out, you can use X-Drake, give something minus 2k, Hibari minus 1k, so you're at minus 3k on something. Give your leader the ability to attack an active. Both of these guys are 5 and 7, so you can just swing for 5 with your leader at something else instead. So it's really, really good. It's really powerful. I've been enjoying this as my little tech piece as a 2 of, and it's been working out pretty nicely for me. Up next, we have 2 copies of Helmeppo. 6 cost 7k power. He says, on play, you may trash 1 card from your hand, draw 1 card, and play up to 1 sword type character with a cost of 8 or less, other than Helmeppo from your trash. Then place that character that was played this effect to the bottom of the owner's deck at the end of this turn. This is really, really good to help you continue to just build that pressure on the board, because if they got a couple of threats and you want to swing at face with a couple of your other guys, you could potentially play him out. You can even trash the card that you want to play out. Like, let's say you have the Hibari in your trash that you want to play out. You can play him out, trash anything you want, or you can trash the Hibari, play it out immediately while also drawing a card. The only downside is that you have to bottom deck it at the end of the turn. It's a really good effect. It helps you get a little bit more of that aggro going, and it's really, really good. It's really solid. I think you'll be genuinely surprised just how powerful this card can be, but this is something that will be getting replaced once the new cards from OP-15 come out, and when that does happen, I'll make sure to do an updated deck list for you guys, because as I mentioned, I'm really loving this deck. So up next, we've got our tech for the format. With yellow just running rampant everywhere, you have to have this if you're playing red. It's Ben Beckman. The effect is really good. It's really simple. 7k, 7 cost, 7k power, 1k power counter. On play, trash up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of with a power of 6k or less. This is going to be an easy card to accomplish. You can easily trash immediately that Nami. You can trash Akuma by using Hibari's once per turn effect. With X-Drake's effect, you can even potentially trash a Robin as well. Almost every yellow card that's in this format, Ben Beckman will let you deal with, especially with the tech that we have in this deck. This is such an easy auto include. This is not even a no-brainer. I've been liking it at 3. Some people have been potentially playing it at 4. Honestly, this kind of comes down to your preference and what you prefer. I've been liking it at 3, so that way I'm not seeing it in every single hand, but I'm seeing him when I need it with how consistently we can draw cards. Up next, we have 2 copies of 7 cost Koby from the promo. He's 7k power, and then on opponent's turn, you give this character minus 3000 power, but when attacking, you give your leader, or you make your leader's base power 7k until the end of your opponent's next turn. This is so good to kind of help you stay healthy. You can play him off the Helmeppo. You can actually pitch him with Helmeppo, play him out, swing to make your leader a 7k power until the next turn, and just keep you healthy, feeling good for that next turn. It's very good. It's incredibly powerful. Sometimes you actually just want to hard play it out, because having that 7k attacker while being 7k base power every single turn is going to be really strong, on top of Kujiaku making so that way all of your guys just keep on getting that plus 2000 every turn. This is just such a strong card in this deck that really helps you out with all of your defense. And then last but not least, we have the pseudo boss monster of this deck, which is our 8 cost Secret Koby. He's an 8 cost 9k power. On play, you can one of your characters can also attack an active character during this turn. When attacking, you can bottom deck 2 cards from your trash, and then up to one of your leader or character cards gets plus 1000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. This is also pretty good because you can make your leader a 6k power, or with this Koby, you can make him an 8k power with both these combined until the opponent's next turn, while also giving him the ability to attack an active. So if your opponent has somewhat of a beefy-ish blocker, like let's say like a 6k power blocker that you don't really want to swing into, or you don't have any other way to swing into because you never saw Hibari, you can play him out. You're swinging 9 into that 6 while also giving your leader that extra 1000 power, or any of your characters, and you're just going to start going incredibly, you're just going to kind of start swinging things down, and really nothing's going to be stopping this unless your opponent just has a million cards in hand. So that's the core of the deck. Next, I want to get into some of our 2Ks and what we're going to be playing to kind of keep us healthy. We're not playing the most amount of 2Ks, but this is what I've been having a pretty good, this is what I've been kind of enjoying for the most part, and I think has been feeling pretty solid, and I'll kind of explain why in a bit. So up first, we have 3 copies of ASL, Asawa Luffy. It's a 2K that says, activate main. You may give one of your active Dawn cards to your leader or characters and trash his character. Give one of your opponent's characters minus 3k for the turn. This is really good because if you can actually play this out on turn 1s, if you don't have your Kujiaku, you can keep this on the field for a bit and use them when you need them. So you can give something with Doll, for example, to combo that together, to give something minus 9,000 fucking power for the turn and just swing the living hell out of it. So if you're staring down a Shanks and he's like, haha, your whole board has minus 1,000. It's like, oh, okay, cool. I'm just gonna do Asawa Luffy, Doll. Your Shanks is literally a 0 cost. Are you gonna give me 5,000 power or counter, or you're just going to let it go by. So this is a really, really good combo piece for the deck. That power reduction is going to be incredibly useful for us. While it is not searchable, it is pretty helpful. I've been playing it around as a 3 of. You could make an argument for it being at 4. It kind of just depends on like how you want to play it, but with some of the other stuff I wanted to squeeze into the deck, I couldn't really find a good spot to remove that and put it up to 3. Or up to 4. Then up next, we have Aramaki. Aramaki, to be honest, is mostly just going to be a 2K. I've never had the need to use its activate main, but its activate main is you can trash this character, and then you can give one of your Navy type characters the ability to attack an active for this turn, then you trash 2 cards from the top of your deck. With Hibari in the deck, and with us having the Koby as well, we don't really need this as much. So you can actually play this if you're in a fringe case where like I really need to start taking out this active character and like I have to deal with it. You can potentially use this, but it's very rare that it's ever going to come up. I've almost never had an instance where I needed it, so it's mainly just been a 2K in the deck that I can at least search. And then last but not least, I have 2 copies of Prince Cress. He's a 2K power. When attacking all of your opponent's characters with 2,000 or less power, cannot activate blocker during this turn. This is actually fairly useful for when you're trying to go for game, because if you have Doll, for example, you can play out the Doll, and then you can also you can play out the Doll, give something minus 6k power, and then if you have him out already on the field, you can swing with him to make sure that your opponent can't activate blocker, because if it has 8,000 power or less, by using Doll, you've made it within the threshold for you to just swing for game without them being able to activate their blockers. So if you're up against Blue Purple Luffy, well, sucks to be Nami, I suppose. So you make it so it's very difficult for them to actually be able to play defensive against you. Lastly, we're going to get into some of our events. It's not too many here, but we've got 4 copies of I'm going to be a Navy officer. This is just a generic 1-cost searcher that you look at the top 3, reveal a Navy card other than this event, add it to your hand, and trash the rest. Helps fill up our trash, helps us search. Really, really good. We've also got 2 copies of Meteor Fist. I've been really liking this because when you hit this off a trigger, it's insane. Even if you don't hit off a trigger, it's really good for just a 3 cost, because you can combo this with Ben Beckman to basically get rid of anything in the game. It's a 3 cost, main, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 5,000 power during this turn, trigger, activate this main effect. It's a really good card. You'll hopefully be able to see why it's so good and why I like it in this deck. And then lastly, the last card I'm playing is 1 copy of Honesty Impact. And I mean, come on. You can't play Koby without having his signature ability in the deck. So it's a 6 cost main, give up to one opponent's characters minus 4k power during this turn, then KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 6,000 power or less. With a trigger, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 6,000 power or less. This is really good. It's notable that you can actually give something else minus 4k to make it easier for you to swing into it, while KOing another card that has 6,000 power or less already. So I've actually used that a couple of times to kind of get rid of a couple of different threats. I use this to help get rid of the blocker Newgate, and then giving that minus 4,000 power to a Rayleigh, the 8-cost Rayleigh to someone, and it was just incredibly insane. Like, just being able to do that in 1 turn for 6 Dawn was just an insane turn of events. But that is it for the deck profile. So I will have a link to the profile here. And yeah, and hopefully I'll be able to get a couple of games in here for you guys at our locals. That way I can show you guys how to play the deck a little bit, how it should go. And if I'm not able to go to our locals, then hopefully I'll be able to put some games up here with the sim while also voicing it over. So let's go ahead and transfer over to that. Alrighty, buddy. As we get on into this, I do want to give a quick shout out to JRose. He's the one who suggested the deck list online in the One Piece official TCG Discord. He's really cool. It was a great list. I really liked it. So big shout out to you, Cobro. I also want to give a big shout out to our local game store, Grand Central Collectibles, for letting me record for today's locals. So up for this first match, we're up against a black-yellow Moria. So we're up against our homie Tezzy here. He's been cooking up a pretty disgusting list for this, especially for the next format. So he wanted to bring it out here. I won the dice roll. I chose to go second. So he just did 1 Dawn pass, and then it passed over to me. So I started off with I'm going to be an Navy officer searching for that Hibari, just trying to line myself up for the next turn, so that way whatever he decides to play out, I've got an out for them. So then he put down the Ace Luffy, and then pass. So over here, I'm just kind of double checking the camera angles just to make sure everything's looking good. So he does decide to play down the Sindri, which is a little bit interesting. He does swing 5k at me, which I decide to take because I usually take the first hit. So the Sindri was interesting because I think he kind of forgot about what Hibari does and the fact that it can attack an active. So I am going to be heavily punishing him for that play. And you're going to see it coming down here as I tap for 3, play down the Hibari, declare herself to attack an active, and I'm just going to use her effect immediately, give the Sindri minus 1000 for the turn, and then just swing 5 into a 0. And so over here I'm just kind of baiting him on. I'm like, oh, come on, you want to give me 5k, come on, you want to counter 5k. But no, of course he's not going to do that, that would be stupid. One attack, I also declared Koby as well, so no matter what, I was going to get rid of that Sindri, whether it be 1 or 2 attacks. So I do decide to go 5k to face, and he decides to take it. So he has no trigger, luckily enough for us, so I do decide to end it out with a Kujiaku, doing a little bit more searching, trying to see if I can round out my curve going out for the rest of the game. And I'm seeing a couple of good options here. I've got the doll, I've got another Hibari, Kujiaku in there. So we've got some pretty solid options. I'm just kind of double checking the hand, see what we got, see what I think is going to be helpful for this matchup. And looking at the hand, there's a couple of good options here. Like the doll is pretty good, I wouldn't be opposed to that. But the Koby is definitely going to give us more value because it's going to be that consistent card draw throughout the game. So I definitely do start aiming to go for that because that's going to be my next turn play that I want to aim for. And so I pass the turn over to him. He has his 5 done now. And so now he's just kind of looking at his hand because unfortunately for him, and this is really unfortunate, we kind of talked about it afterwards, but he was pretty bricked up for this match. He didn't really get to see too many of his Thriller Bark package, which really hurt him. So he does decide to swing 7k at my face. And so for the 7k at my face, I was kind of thinking it over. I could potentially take it, but I was just thinking about what would he play out for 3 Dawn. I didn't really have any solid answers, so I was like, you know what, I think I'll be fine. I'll just go ahead and counter out of this. It's nothing that I'm probably going to be too afraid of. And looking at the things that I countered out the 2k Aramaki and the Ben Beckman, because the Beckman's not going to help me too much for this matchup. Because it could potentially get rid of like a Perona on board, but then I put into his trash, which is effectively, he wants it in hand or trash. Like he does not care where that Perona is at. So he does end up playing a little bit of Spice, which is the 3-cost Zoro. This Zoro has Rush as long as you have less life than your leader. Unfortunately for him, we were both tied on life, so it just ends up being a 5k that's just standing there. And unfortunately for him, Hibari does allow me to attack an active when she attacks. And so you are going to see me punishing him for that play. So I immediately start off with the Ace Luffy, giving that Zoro minus 3k for the turn. Then I attach that Dawn onto my leader. And so now I'm kind of thinking about, okay, so how do I want to sequence this? Obviously I have to swing with Hibari to give my Koby the ability to attack, because I do want to attack with Koby, but I also have too many cards in hand. So once I play down the Koby, that'll give me enough cards in hand, so that way I can at least still draw with my attack. So I decided to swing 6k at his face first, just try to bait out a potential swing, which was pretty risky on my part, because if he hits something that allowed him to play out like a Perona or something, that could have stopped my Hibari from attacking. But considering that he only had like 2 cards in the graveyard, I wasn't too concerned about that. So I went ahead, paid the 4, played out Koby, and so now this is where we kind of start thinking about how we're gonna do our attacks. Obviously I know I want to swing with Hibari first, so I decided to swing 6k at his face, knowing that I'm gonna bait out at least another 2k or potentially 2 cards for 1ks. And so he ends up deciding to take it instead, which is a little bit interesting. So the fact that he took it was a little bit unfortunate for him, because I know that obviously he wants to trigger stuff out instead. But I do decide to attack with the Koby. I tell him I have 5 cards in hand, so on my attack I draw a card. So
he does let it go through. He's not going to keep it alive. It's too much of a commitment for him to keep that Zoro alive, and with him already being down to 1 life, he wants to keep those cards in his hands, that way he can use his leader effect. And so now he's just kind of doing a little bit of thinking, trying to figure out how he's going to get himself out of this mess. Because unfortunately for him, we got him into a pretty bad corner here. So he does decide that he just wants to send 7 into the Hibari. She's already done her job. He's got nothing else on board. She's a little bit too fragile at this point of the game, so I'm not going to commit cards to protect her. And I don't think I even had enough to protect her. So he does decide to commit the leader ability, pitches 3 cards, heals a life. And then we're just kind of talking about like, oh, okay, so like, what just happened? Did you just get the plus 1000? So he's like, no, it's just leader effects. Alright, cool. So he pays 3, he plays out another Zoro. And so now that he's got the Zoro, he can actually rush because he's at 2 life and I'm at 3. So I actually think about this, and I made a small misplay because I forgot that my Koby had the plus 1000 in his turn. So I could have actually countered out of this for 2k, which I had in hand. I could have countered with 2 1000s. But even then, I think me letting it go is probably still the best idea, because I already have another Koby in hand, so there's no point in me trying to save this one because he's already committing a resource to kill it, and I don't want to get rid of another card in hand to get rid of it as well. So I do decide to go for the doll play, deciding to pick one of the bricks in my hand. So I do have the 8-cost secret, the 4-cost Hibari, or the 4-cost Kujiaku, and the 3-cost Hibari. Hibari's not going to benefit me as much in this matchup right now, or at least for the current time. So I do decide I'm just going to pitch out the Hibari, give that minus 6k to the Zoro, making him a 0, and then we'll pay that remaining 4 for the Koby. So in this turn, I actually had the potential to play out the 8-cost secret, but I didn't want to do that because it just wasn't as good as me setting up a blocker plus drawing a card. And I'd rather save it for an opportunity where I need to actually swing into something bigger. So I do decide, he does let it go through, I draw my card, I swing 5k with my leader into his leader, and he doesn't end up getting any trigger either. So now he's really in dire straits. He has no board, he still has 1 life, he's really looking at it's kind of looking a little bit dicey for him. I've now got a blocker, I've still got 3 life, I've got my Koby back on board, and he just spent his last turn getting rid of 2 of the cards on my board. So now he's got to do it again. And this time I remember I do have that plus 1000. So this time he decides to swing 5000 again at my leader, and then when he attacks he does his leader's effect. I countered out of it. And so then he does end up playing a boa. And so here we're just kind of double checking, does it go to trash, does it go to my hand, because of all the bullshit yellow stuff that's happening. But this was actually a really good play from him because I was not anticipating a boa Hancock, especially in this matchup. So he actually was able to rip that life from me while also gaining 2 in the process in this turn. So it was a really good turn of events for him. So I do decide to send it with the Koby now. So he gives himself the ability to attack an active. And unfortunately for me, throughout this entire match, I completely forgot about Koby's secondary effect. So I could have been giving my leader an extra buff until the end of his next turn. But it was just a little bit unfortunate for me. So I do end up using Kujiaku's effect. I trash her, give Koby +1 for the turn, and then attach 2 Dawn to swing into his 10. So he does decide to give me 4k, which I was not thinking that he would have, because I thought, well, either he's going to have to commit a ton into keeping this alive, or he might not have enough. And with how he's been playing this game, I thought maybe he'd be holding on to a couple of bricks. So he does end up saving it. I decide to swing 5 with the Koby, and then thinking about where we want to go from here. So he spends a really long time debating about this trigger that he has here, because it was a really good trigger, but it was just really poor timing that it came out. And like, we were even talking about it with the shop owner. He came around behind us and he was like, "Oh dude, that's such a good trigger, but it's the worst time to get it." So we were all kind of just joking around. It was like, "Oh well, sucks to suck, man." And that's just the nature of gambling with yellow. So I do end up swinging 5 at lead, and he takes that as well. So now he's up to his 10 Dawn turn, and the only thing that I'm a little bit concerned about is him potentially playing out the 8-cost Moria, and potentially healing himself, setting him up with some more triggers. The thing that I was most afraid of in this matchup was him having the Peronas, which you actually see that he doesn't get them until quite later. And that's really what I think ultimately was helping me win this game, because this should be a pretty favored matchup into the Moria, because Perona can shut down the entirety of my early to mid game. He can shut off my card draw with Koby, he can shut off most of my attacks, and as soon as I kill it, it's just gonna freeze something else. So he does decide to do, he play Absalom, he uses the leader's effect, KOs it, and then searches for this Kumasi. So this Kumasi he was actually telling me about the night before, about how he's cooking it up with the list. And it's kind of disgusting because for 2 Dawn, it gains plus 1000 power on your turn for each 5 cards in your trash. So he's kind of aiming for a little bit more of a mill-centric Moria build for the next set. And so he wants to play around with it a little bit, see how it feels. And that thing's kind of disgusting. It's like a 2-cost card that can go up to like 8,000 power with only 2 Dawn. It's kind of insane. So he does end up playing out the Perona. He freezes my Koby, and then he commits some Dawn to the Boa, and he decides to swing into the Koby, the 8-cost Koby, which is a pretty good play from him. I think what would have been maybe a little bit of a, like, what could have also been a good play from him too is just maybe trying to pressure face with most of his characters, because at this point he was already way too far behind, and there wasn't too much that he could really do, but he's definitely doing his best to kind of play to his outs, so you got to respect the grind. And so he passes over to me, and I'm kind of just looking at his trash because I see that he has 1 Dawn open, and I'm trying to think to myself, what does he have? Like, what kind of 1-cost event does he have that he can play? And I was hoping that maybe there might be one in his trash that I could reference, but c'est la vie, there was nothing in there. So I'm starting to do a little bit of thinking. I'm like, you know what? Let's just start off with the Hibari, or with the Kujiaku. We'll get a little bit of card draw going because I got a few bricks in hand, and I want to see if I can hopefully draw into some 2Ks. And also, I already have a doll in hand, which is why I'm happy with pitching the other doll. And I'm planning on using it to eliminate, like, completely obliterate the living hell out of this Boa Hancock. So I use doll, give Boa minus 6k, putting her down to 4,000. And so with Kujiaku being a 6k and a sword character, she can also attack this turn. And so now I'm just kind of thinking about the sequencing of my events. I do still have 2 Dawn open. I'm just debating if I want to commit them to my characters or use it for anything else. So I decided to swing 7 into his 4, and he's doing a bit of a think here where I'm once again thinking to myself, if he decides to keep this alive, that's 3 cards that he has to commit, which is his entire hand. So he, of course, doesn't decide to play into my gamble, and so he lets it go through. I swing 5 at life, and he's kind of thinking about whether or not he should take it. And after a little bit of a deliberation, he's like, you know what, I think I'm probably going to have to do this, because if I don't, I take it, and I might not have enough to stop the Koby from KOing me next turn. So he's also just double checking about when it can attack an active, because he does have a Sindri blocker engrave, so he could have potentially played that out if he got like a lucky trigger, which is something that I was also trying to play around as well, as like if he got a trigger to play out a guy, then he can maybe get something from the trash, which I was thinking of maybe a Sindri. And then I swing with the Koby, and here he finally got his first Thriller Bark trigger. It only took his very last life of the game, which was very, very unfortunate for him. So he's kind of thinking to himself like, okay, you know what, I'm up against the wall, I've got basically 1 turn left, because he really only has just this turn to try to KO me, and if he doesn't, it's game over. So I've already used up all my attacks, my Kobe's frozen, so he's like, you know what, I'm gonna grab that Kumasi from the grave, and we'll see what I can get. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I can't do anything about that, so I decided to play out the Kujiaku, do a little bit of searching. I'm trying to find myself a 2k, but fortunately I don't find it, so I just decided to grab the promo Koby. That way I can at least just still have another 1k in the hand, and once I survive the next turn, if I can survive the next turn, then I can use it for some counter. So now he's over here thinking about how he's going to sequence his turn. He decides to swing 7 with the Perona first at my face. And now he's just going all out. Like, he knows he has to try to go face because there's no other option for him. So he swings with the Perona first. That way he can sequence things properly. He plays out his Momonosuke. And this is some tech that I probably should have expected because he's shown me this before. And honestly, Momonosuke is such a good card. It helps him push for game a lot in this deck, and I've seen him clutch out some wins with this one card. But I was not expecting it, so I kind of had to do a little bit of quick thinking about like what the math was looking like. And so I was like, okay, you know what? He's definitely got a lot of power on board. So he decides to use leader effect. He pops the Perona, freezes the Koby again, gives him his leader in the board plus 1,000. And so here in a sec, we're going to start doing a little bit of math, trying to figure out what everything's looking like. So I was already counting his graveyard before he played at the Momonosuke, and I saw that he had 14 cards in hand, and with the Perona, that gave him 15, which made the Kumasi go up to plus 3. And then here we're just kind of talking about how the math worked with Momonosuke because of how he gets the boost, the plus 1, has to return the Dawn, all that bullshit and shenanigans. So he decides to swing 7 at lead. So now I'm just thinking to myself, okay, well, he has 7k attack, he has an 8k attack, and then he has a 9k attack. So I can definitely block the 2 biggest. I just have to counter out of the small one, which I had enough counter in hand, luckily. So I give him the 3k, and so now I know from this point I won the game. There's nothing he can do. He can't possibly get past the blocker and my extra life. So, you know, like I said, kudos to him. He definitely played as best as he could. This was a really, really tough matchup for him, and he was really, really struggling to like get a good foothold in this match. And unfortunately for him, I was just kind of in the driver's seat, and he didn't get to see too much. So up next, we're up against an Emu. This one was also a pretty rough match because like Koby does technically have a pretty good matchup into Emu. It's fairly decent. But it gets better with the new support. Right now, it's still kind of in a little bit of like a 50-50 of who gets the better draws and who controls the board first. And so, because this is my homie and he was my ride home, you know, I had to take it easy on him. I had to give him a win. You know, I wanted to make sure that he was having a good time so he doesn't abandon me. But no, so I did win the dice roll on this. Obviously, I made him go first. If you are playing against Emu, that's always going to be the best option. He was also showing me that that's his pocket Emu because it's all torn up and bent, and he's just using, you know, just normal Dawn unsleeved. And he was like, you know what? Hey, this is like a $20 deck. I'm just going to treat it like the piece of trash it is. And I was like, hey, bro, I respect it. So we kind of start off, he does his usual stuff. He does a lot of searching with the Shalaria, sends some stuff to the trash. Then he gets the, and then in this turn, he gets the Elders at your service, grabbing the Jupiter. And so, unfortunately for me, I didn't really have a very good starting hand either. We did have to mulligan, and what I got is what I got. So I played out the Aesaba Luffy early, hoping that I can get some value with it later. And so he does decide to swing 7k at me at this turn. And unfortunately for me, my life was the Meteor Fist, which really sucks to take as my first life because that trigger to give something minus 5k is incredibly good. But if you get it as your first life, I mean, at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do. So I do decide to swing 5k at his lead. He gives me a 2k. And so now he's just kind of neatly arranging his trash, trying to make sure that he can get that extra plus 1,000 on his turn. So now he's just double checking what the Koby does, and I'm telling him like, yeah, like it just swings, draws me some cards, pops some shit, you know, nothing too broken. It's not Emu after all. And so we pass it off over to him. He's taking a look at what he can do. And so he draws his card per turn. And now he's kind of thinking about what he wants to do, but he just decides, fuck it, we ball. He full sends the Empty Throne immediately, plays out the, I believe that's Saturn, does a little bit of searching and grabs the, I believe it's the Mars, the guy who pops a card on play. And so he ends up deciding to get the Never Should Have Existed for his search. And so he decides to play another Elders at your service. And this is what really sucked for me in this matchup, is that like he got so many cards to search in this game where I kind of felt like I was struggling a little bit because like my draws just were not too good, and you're gonna kind of see it like throughout the rest of this game. It was a really tough matchup, and obviously he played this match very well. He played around effectively what Koby wants to do, which is attacking the board. And because he consistently prevented himself from having characters that were rested, he made it so that way the main thing that my deck wants to do, which is attacking characters, was not active. So I couldn't really attack too much into his board to deal with stuff and get the value of my characters the turn that they're played. So instead, I kind of had to deal with what he had, what he was throwing at me, and just kind of deal with it from there. So it was a little bit rough. He was also just kind of double checking about how the removal works with Koby, and that's also something that came back to bite me in the ass because, as you can see, I don't have any cards in my trash right now because I wasn't searching for anything. I haven't gotten a chance to like put stuff into the trash yet. I'm in a really dicey spot. So I decided, alright, you know what? Now I have to start countering out. I'm going to give him 1,000 for this attack, and then he passes the turn. So now I'm kind of thinking, alright, well, I can't really do anything to attack into this active, so I think I'm just going to have to play whatever I can, try to see what I can do. And like my hand isn't really the best either. Like I don't have too many options. I'm kind of just thinking about it. I do have the Hibari, and I'm thinking about playing it out because any other option I was thinking of, I don't think really helps me out too much. And this isn't one of the cards that has blocker, so he could just potentially, I could have just potentially left it on board, but then that's another 5k swing coming at me, which I don't want to deal with. So I decided to play out the Hibari on play, make it so she can attack an active, and then I use her on play to give minus 1,000. So now I know he has the extra 1 Dawn open, so I decided to just full rip the Asabalupi, give him minus 4k, and then swing 6 into his 1,000. And so obviously he doesn't take the bait to try to save it. He knows that Elder is basically just a dead man walking. So I do decide to attack with the Koby for 6 and draw a card, since I think at that point I had 5 or 6 cards, so I was still within range to draw. So because I swung 6, he was like, we're gonna counter 6, 7, and he saw me doing the hands. Oh, cringe, brain rot, Gen Alpha. And so I swing another 6 at his life. So now he's just debating about how he wants to counter out of this, and he's just thinking about potentially sending this Shirahoshi, which he does, and then I pass. So unfortunately for me, that turn really went into his favor because I effectively had to use 2 cards to get rid of his 1. And that's what kind of hurts a little bit, especially into this matchup, because if I don't have the consistent use of the Hibari, I'm gonna have to consistently use up to 2 cards just to remove 1 card. So the trades for the early game are not worthwhile for me. And this is where he gets me. He hits me with the big guy and is able to pop the Koby because unfortunately I don't have enough cards in the trash to actually be able to save him. So that really hurt me out a lot, and that set me back super far. So he does decide to swing 9,000 into Hibari, and I'm looking at my hand like, I literally have no way to save this. I think I can like counter 3k, but that's about it. So he does decide to use leader ability, KOs this dude, and draws a card. And so like I was saying, like he was playing really well against me, stopping me from doing a lot of stuff. I finally got to see I'm gonna be a Navy officer, and unfortunately I just didn't get very good value here. So I was thinking about grabbing the X Drake here, which is what I ended up doing, because the alternative would have been to grab the Kujiaku. And I could have gotten the Kujiaku to go searching again, but I was thinking to myself like, hey, you know what, this X Drake is going to be pretty useful in this matchup. I'm going to give something consistently -2, and that'll help me with really being able to like swing hard into his board. And that was what helped me the first time that I played this deck at locals to go undefeated, because I did also play against another Emu that turn. And the X-Drake really did put in a lot of work to keep reducing the power of his guys every time that I attacked, to make it so that way my on plays, the cards that I played immediately can still swing hard into his board. But unfortunately, I'm up against a different breed. Like this dude, he you know, like homie here does not shower ever. Like he's rolling in the filth with the emu. He's been sweating it up. Like he knows what emu does, and he was pretty prepared for this matchup. So he like played this really, really well, and that's what kind of made this pretty difficult for me. So I did end up playing down the Aramaki because since I was kind of in a dicey situation where now I don't have Habari anymore, I kind of had to think to myself, like, you know what, I gotta give myself a way to attack an active. We're getting close to that 10 dawn turn. I gotta start preparing because once he hits 10 dawn, elders are coming down. It's a guarantee. We both know it's gonna happen. So I pass it over to him. He decides to play the St. Shalaria, searches for the event, and then just trashes the event from resolving the Shalaria's effect. And then he uses leader effect, trashes the Shalaria, and draws another card. And so, as you can see here from his hand, like, he's already set for the next turn. He has the 10 elders, he has another elder in hand, and then he has an event in hand as well. So he does decide to use the empty throne here, I think. I guess we're gonna see. But yeah, so I'm kind of just staring down a little bit of a difficult board here. Like, I genuinely have no idea how I'm gonna get through this because I know that once those 10 elders comes down, it's gonna be dicey for me. It's just gonna be elders every turn. And so he decides he just wants to play out the Shalaria again, draws another card, pitches another one of the elders. And so now I'm just kind of looking through to see if he has all the elders in the graveyard, because like I said, I know he's about to get 10 elders next turn. And so he decides to swing 10,000 at my face, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not fucking blocking that. I got not enough counter for that. So I take the card. It turns out to be a Helmeppo, and that's a little bit good for me, especially in this situation where I'm kind of falling behind. So now I have to really start thinking to myself, okay, how can I possibly prepare for the 10 elders coming down? And so I don't have a whole lot of options, to be honest. So I'm kind of just thinking it out. I have the Kujiaku in hand. I have Doll. I could potentially set up a couple of blockers this turn, and then I can try to turtle up. The thing that sucked for me is that I think at this point in the game, I had all 4 copies of Doll in my hand, which is not what you want to see. Yeah, you can see it right there. I just drew into my 4th copy of Doll. So this was atrocious for me to have. This was just horrible. And you know what? I was not living up to the name of the King of TopDecks. I was unfortunately throwing. So I'm trying to think to myself, like, how can I possibly play to the best of my ability here? Like, how can I, like, what are my outs? So I do decide I'm just going to start swinging a little bit at his life. Let's just see if we can burn those counter events. I know that he has them. I know he at least has one. So he does decide to give me that it should have never existed. I swing another 7,000, and he's thinking about using the event again, but he decides, you know what, I'll just take the life. And I can't quite tell what that life was for him, but I do decide to play the Doll, and I don't use the on-play effect. So I decide, you know what, I gotta turtle up a little bit. I don't have many options in hand. Let's just put up this blocker. We know he's gonna send the 10 elders, so he's gonna have guaranteed 2 attacks coming my way this turn. The only thing is, I obviously just don't know how strong those attacks are going to be. So he starts it off by using leader ability. He trashes the St. Shalaria, and then he does use the event, plays out the 10 elders, and, you know, here comes the shenanigans. So now he's just thinking about what he's going to pitch for it. And it looks like, I think he pitches the Nazjuro. Yeah. So he pitches the Nazjuro and then plays out all the elders. And so now he's just resolving all of the effects, all the on-plays. So he starts by doing his search, starts looking, gets himself some stuff. And the funny thing too is that, like, he's also getting pretty low to the bottom of his deck. And at this point, I'm thinking to myself, I don't think I have nearly enough gas in the tank to keep, or to be able to, like, take him down enough life. So now I'm thinking to myself, is there even a possibility that maybe I can win by deck out? I'm trying to think about, like, what are my options now, and if I think I can do that, maybe I can just start slamming down all my blockers and just try to use leader to, like, to just try to clear his board whenever I can. Unfortunately for me, it's not really going to work out too well for me. And he does end up swinging, I believe, 8,000 at my X-Drake. And I know I want to keep this X-Drake alive. And so he decides to grab the gigantic dice to show that Jupiter's boosting up the board by 7. And so I was actually going to give him 2k at first, and I didn't hear him that he mentioned that he was giving the minus 2k to the X-Drake, and I was like, oh shit, my bad. So he was actually swinging 8 into 5 rather than 8 into 7. And so now I'm just kind of rethinking the math and like how exactly that's supposed to work. And looking at the hand, literally I've got 3 dolls in hand. I've got Meteor Fist, I've got a Kujiaku. Like, this is, I've never been more bricked up in my life. So I decided to use the doll to block it, forcing him to have to swing into it again. So I'm at least forcing him to commit another attack into me. So he does end up doing it, the X-Drake goes down, and he passes the turn. So now he's still got 3 cards in hand. I don't know what else it is, but obviously I know he's got 2 events with the 2 Dawn open. So at this point, I decide, you know what, the only option I've got is really playing doll and then trying to clear the board. So I play out the doll, I trash Kujiaku, give his one of his blockers -6 for the turn. I play out the Helmeppo, and then with the Helmeppo, I decide to play out the Hibari. Because at this point, I know that like I don't really have a good way to end the game, but I know that if I don't do something about his board right now, he's gonna swing 7 times at my face, and I have no way to deal with that. So I have to commit to the board here. So we're kind of doing a little bit of the maths here. I use Hibari's effect. I give -1,000 to the Nazjuro, and then into the other blocker. And then I decide to swing Hibari into his -6,000, giving Helmeppo the ability to attack an active. And so now he's just thinking to himself, like, you know what? I could potentially block for it, but I mean, doesn't really matter. If he was kind of thinking of it in this way, it was like, these characters essentially have rush. These blockers would have been used to stop any potential rushers because he knows that he can stop the other 2 attacks that I have on board. And so that's exactly how he plays it out. So he just lets it go, and then he decides to let the second blocker go as well. Because like I said, he already knows that he doesn't really need them. He has plenty of card draw on the deck. He has plenty of ways to get into the 5 Elders. And all he needs to do is just get another 5 Elders. So he knows that he's looking good. So he lets it go. He gets the KO, draws a card. And so now I'm thinking to myself, like, do I want to swing with the Kujiaku and the Koby? And unfortunately, I kind of have to. I have to just commit. I have to do something here. And I know that he's going to probably counter out. But if he doesn't, then that's at least 1 more card saving me. So he decides to use a little bit of... he decides to use Nazjuro's Doppelganger to stop him from... to keep him alive, you know. So you got to use Nazjuro to save Nazjuro. So I use Aramaki, allowing Kujiaku to attack one of the active guys. And I was trying to attack the Jupiter, so that way I can potentially reduce the power for next turn, because I wouldn't be able to give myself the ability to attack both. And I was hoping that if I swung with Koby into the Nazjuro first, I'd bait out some counter, and then hopefully he wouldn't have anything for the Jupiter. But with the 2 Dawn open, obviously I know that he has the events in hand, so it was a little bit of a futile effort, but I have to play to whatever outs and to the potential option of him just trying to bluff. So he does end up playing the 5 Elders at your service again, and he does a little bit of searching. He gets himself the 5 Elders, and that was really unfortunate for me because I didn't know it at the time, but he didn't even have the other 5 Elders, and he already had 1 engraved from the very first turn, and apparently his last 5 Elders was in life. So he was getting very close to the bottom of his deck. Anyways, I think at this point he had like, I don't know, I think like less than 10 cards in the deck at this point. So he was definitely playing it pretty fast and loose. And so now he's just thinking to himself like, alright, well, now what am I going to do? I think I'm just going to swing this into the Kujiaku, give it -2, because that's also buffing up the board. And so now, unfortunately, I have to start thinking, alright, well, I gotta keep her alive, I gotta do what I can, gotta force him to swing into it harder. I know he's got the 5 Elders, he's gonna kill her no matter what, but the more attacks she sucks, the longer I can stay alive. And unfortunately, I have to let her go at this point. And so now all I'm left with is just a Helmeppo, 2 life, and a dream. So he decides to swing 7 into the Helmeppo again, and I'm thinking about countering out of it, and I do decide to do it, because once again, I have the dolls, but like, you know, of course he still has one more attack, so he just swings into it, and now I'm just gonna have to take the next attack that comes at me with the Nuzjuro. So it's just really unfortunate for me because I'm just in such a tight spot because of, one, the really horrible, crappy draws that I've gotten, 2, my luck with my life, and then also 3, just my opponent really just outplaying the living hell out of me. Because, like I mentioned, he's been playing this matchup incredibly well. He's been playing to all of his outs, he's been playing around Koby's main effect, and he's been playing very heavily into his own effects, and he's just absolutely dominating in this game. So he just decided to swing 8,000 into me. I decided to take it, and unfortunately I caught Prince Crust. So I'm gonna be a Navy officer, and it's not the best, but it's something that can help. I'm kind of thinking about, like, I don't even know what's going to help me at this point. Obviously, I need to draw some cards. So I'm thinking about potentially the Kujiaku so I can draw 2. But the Koby can at least swing. It'll draw me 1 as well. But, I mean, either way, they're both going to be able to swing. Kujiaku can keep herself a little bit more healthy the next turn. But, I mean, all he has to do is commit 1 Dawn to kill her. And I'm already at 1 life. There's not much I can do. So I grabbed the Koby, decided to play him out. And then I think I've still got 5 Dawn left. Yeah. And so now my only other option here is basically to play out the doll, give minus 6k, and then try to swing with Koby, swing with my leader. But at this point, the writing's kind of already on the walls. There's no way I can possibly come back from this, and the only thing I can do is potentially just play to him decking out, which I don't have nearly enough counter, I don't have nearly enough blockers. I've got nothing to help me get to that out. And that's what we're even counting here, and I think he has like 8 cards at this point. And I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to survive 8 turns. So yeah, so he does decide to give me the blocker to for the Koby attack. I decided to swing 7, and then I realized, like, oh shit, my bad. I actually just realized that was like the incorrect math, because I wanted to have that 4 Dawn open, and I forgot that I'm gonna be a Navy officer, so I was like, oh shit, my bad, meant to do 6,000, not 7,000. And it was like, okay, yeah, you're cool. And I think he still decides to let this go through. No, he decides to protect the Nuzjuro. And so I play out the doll, no on play, because obviously I need these last 3 cards in hand to survive. But like I said, the writing's on the wall. I grab his big ass dice. I know he's just gonna start swinging 7, 7, 7, 7, and it just, you know, he's hitting the jackpot here. It's Casino Royale over here. So now he's just kind of counting out his Dawn, trying to figure out how he wants to sequence this, that way he can try to go for the kill. He's pretty confident he has lethal on board, and I know he has lethal on board as well. So he swings, I get Ripper from life. Not the best. And like I said, this was a really unfortunate game. I got some really bad draws, he got some incredibly good searches, and he played very well. So he gave me the -2 on the Koby, still swinging at my lead, and I counter out of it. He's gonna start swinging 8 into my life again, and at this point I don't have enough to stop it, so I block it, and then I tell him, hey, you got it, bro. So I did also have 2 other games that I wanted to show off, but I thought the video was already kind of getting a little bit too long. So thank you for watching this far. I wanted to try something different because of some feedback that I got from some friends. So if you enjoyed this kind of longer video with gameplay at the end, please show your support by liking this video, sharing with your friends, and letting me know in the comments. Maybe next time I'll just do a sim only or a locals only video, so I would love to hear what you guys would prefer to see. As always, my name is the King of TopDecks. Always remember that every draw counts, so always aim to be the King of TopDecks. Signing out.